Alrighty. So let's start with the picture, just in case people ask. So yes, that is Greta Thunberg with a rapper in Svenska in Sweden, and this is basically a campaign where roll up your sleeves so you can get your shot, so you can get the jab, bro. So, but let's get into the topic at hand. Tankies and wignats. Tankies and wignats. In many ways, these are overlapping even the same side of the same coin. Or, excuse me, yeah, two sides of the same coin. That'd probably make more sense, wouldn't it? The tanky and the wignat. Tanky, of course, is the term that, well, we justify, the destruction of, countries and whatnot. We justify the killing of millions of people, Holodomor. Whereas the wignat is the one that is kind of an extension of, the Veraboo, right? Where it's just like, Nazi Germany did nothing wrong, and haha, we love white people, this and that. But unironically, of course, we'll take we'll have a Korean waifu or a Japanese waifu, or whatever, right? And that's kind of the typical thing of it, isn't it? So why do they become the tankies or the why do they become tankies? Why do they become wignats? Well, the basic reason to me is that there's a lot of propaganda that exists both for the Soviet Union and for Nazi Germany. And it comes down to a war of aesthetics, really, where it's like, like I say, and there's similarities, there's obviously overlap, where, you'll have the so-called old school jackboot, if you will, that both the Soviets and the Germans wore, right? Marching in unison. We'll see the U.S. do it, but it's nowhere near the accuracy and the pomp and the flair that even the modern Russian military displays, that the American military could never capture. It could never really capture that unified sense where they're all snapping to attention, all that sort of thing. I think that's another overlap that tankies and wignats have, right? And also that people gave enough of a crap about them to lie. It's like, wow, you went to all this trouble just to lie to me? Wow, to say our system is greater than any other, all the propaganda say, yes, look at our, Gloria Soviet Union, or yes, look at, yeah, look at the amazing, National Socialist Imperialist, yeah, the National Socialist Empire. Look at all this. Look at how many T-34 tanks we destroyed. Sie shall beat back the asiatischen Bolschewismus. Niemals kapitulierten. Niemals. Right? What does the U.S. do? The U.S. used to have that propaganda as well. And used to at least give them the idea, the lip service, that we gave a shit about them. There's not really that type of propaganda that exists today. It's more of, shut the fuck up, you better do what we say. Or, I'm proud to be a Zionist, right? That's the real propaganda that's out there. It really is all so tiring to see. This hatred of tankies and wignats, or whichever term you want to use for folks. and saying, oh, Assad is bad, you're not going to do anything. You've already surrendered that point. Nobody is going into Syria. Nobody. They don't want to have an international conflict with the Russians. They don't want to. People, like I said, I relate back to this boomer, this guy who came from the counterculture from the 60s and 70s and researched hip-hop and all that and said, these fake conflicts of left and right create the true believers and all this. It's like, yeah, it's true. It's also because they give half a shit about them. You think that people join, you think that people stay with the National Alliance because they were, they forced them to be racially pure, this and that. No, because they gave them financial support. They gave them some sort of, concern. They lied to them. They gave them some sort of propaganda to pretend that they are speaking for you. It's the same thing for Trump. That they actually gave enough of a crap about you to lie about you. Pretend to give a shit about you. That's why they voted for him. That's why people have said that over and over, right? People voted for Trump because he at least lied to people. Biden can't even do that. Kamala Harris can't even do that. But people still shill for them because they're not Trump. They're not Mike Pence, right? Politicians today can't even pretend to lie to you. It's all just residual at this point. So the reason why people become these things because they speak to them, because they spend all their time on the internet, and maybe they get tired of looking for video games and they feel that these people don't speak for them. So they join a larger movement, right? It's all so tiresome. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It really is. It's all so tiresome. People become this way because they don't have another choice. What else is out there for them? Libertarian movement? It doesn't really exist. Some imagined, Democratic, the DSA. Nobody wants to hear from them. We just see alienation from these groups. It's like, why do people become black nationalists or whatever? It's because they at least give half of a fuck to say, yeah, black folks were the ones that created the United States. The difference, though, is that they'll say, yeah, we're going to fight for you regardless because we're one of you. And we're going to fight to get that money. We are going to fight them. Vosh doesn't talk about that. People like him, and I know I've given him a lot of lip service recently. I'm sorry. I am. I'm going to try to get off it. But what does he say? Well, integration. And we've even seen from a Jewish rabbi. I think I'll find that clip and I'll put it up. I'll just cut it down to the very minimum clip. But he'll, and that rabbi will say integration was a failure. And he'll say, this rabbi was saying, of course, talking about the Jewish community primarily, but he said integration was a failure. And I don't disagree. It was. I'm sorry for the dead air. It just people join these things because They have nothing else. And it's easier to live in a fantasy of what could have been than live in the world that you live in now. It's hard to live in the world now. And you see these videos, like I said, I was watching a video about how money works, right? That channel. And they said, yeah, things are going to continue to get worse. Pretty much all the innovations that we've had, the easier stuff has been invented. Yeah, some new things will come up, but overall it's the same. We're under the same system, basically. We see an economy that is stagnating. And we see people building bullshit hotels, right? Kind of like the one that I'm working in, or building these these buildings that are probably only going to be half full, if that. Are we building roads? Are we building railroads? Are we building infrastructure? Are we building a railroad from Canada all the way to the tip of Chile? No, that's not happening. Are we coming in? Are we revitalizing the Panama Canal? No, it's not happening. We're talking about electric cars. It's like, yeah, that's a good start, but the thing is, though, where do you go from there? And we have come to this sort of gregarious sort of, well, we'll kind of do these things, but just keep on keeping on. If you stick to the plan, right? Trust the plan, bro. And then everything will work out, I guess. People can't live on that. That's why they become black nationalists. And that's why they become white nationalists. That's why they become tankies or whatever, right? Because this system doesn't offer them anything other than more of the same. But then on another coin completely, you could say, that's the extremist coin. But let's look at the more reformist coin. The DSA sort of Vosh Democratic Party coin, where it's like, well, if we just get more acceptance of the LGBTQIA stuff, and if we just acknowledged racism and slavery and all that, then that'll be better. Not talking about taxes, not talking about any of these other things. They'll give lip service to changing communities, this and that, but it's like they still have love for cities. And they just want reform because they're afraid of revolutions. They don't want those. And they'll say, yeah, we should have pulled out of Afghanistan, but we should have had a better idea of how to do it. It's like, well, they didn't have a plan back during the Vietnam War, so there you go. And they'll just say Taliban bad and everything else. And these sort of, like I say, that's the sort of galaxy brain reform where it's like, we want to make America better. They're not going to say make America great because obviously Trump ruined that, but they want to make things better. And what do they mean by better? They mean it more accepting of the gay community and more accepting of brown people. That's really what it is. But they'll also try to be anti-theist about it and atheistic and be like, well, we don't like religion either, and eventually we'll change them. That also comes into reform, right? Where it's like, well, we'll support these regimes that are overly Muslim or Islamic, but eventually we're going to change them. No, you're not. No. Stop lying to yourselves. Islamic, like I say, Sharia, which doesn't mean Islamic law. That's why I don't say Sharia law, because that's an oxymoron. But Sharia has existed a lot longer than your anti-theist beliefs have. And in general, people are used to that. You stick with the enemy that you know. You stick with the devil that you know and the devil you don't know. That's what it is. That's why people stick with what, it's that simple, right? It's like if you're used to being I don't know, if you work at a casino, you don't love that work, but you're used to it. You're used to the bullshit. And as long as you have enough gumption, and as long as you have enough patience to put up with the bullshit, then you'll do that. It's the same thing with Hollywood or whatever, right? Anyway, I don't know where the hell I was going with this, but this is turning into another long video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this one. I'll just say this, is that people become extremists because they're tired of the status quo. And there aren't that many people that are out there wishing for something better. So it's like, why don't I go with the extremists? And then, of course, you'll find out that those extremists may not really be that extreme, and their extremism is matched, or their idealism is matched with the reality of economics and how the world works. So, anywho, I think that's all I have to say about that. Hopefully, y'all enjoy that. See you later, and a goodbye.